Hello there! In today's episode, we will take a look at one of the rare woman sultans or sultana of the Muslim world. Even more impressive, she rose to the rank after being a slave for most of her life up to that point. This impressive woman is Shajar al-Durr. Not much is known of her origins, not even her year of birth, though historians estimate she was born in 2020 CE. Where she was born is equally unclear, with speculation ranging from her being Turkic, Circassian, or Armenian. All we know, with relative certainty, is that she must have been very young when she was first enslaved. Slavery was unfortunately a very common practice among the Muslim realms. While slaves were not as ill-treated as in other times and societies due to religious rules, it was nonetheless a traumatic experience for countless victims. Yet, every once in a while, slaves managed to rise above their role as victims. The young Shajar was bought by As-Salih Ayyub in a Levant slave market. He was a member of the Ayyubid dynasty, made famous by its founder Saladin, that had for the past about 60 years ruled over Egypt and been a dominant factor in the Muslim world. As-Salih was not yet Sultan himself when he bought Shajar, but likely held the governor position over Damascus at the time. He was sent there by his father Sultan al-Kamil due to suspicions that the son tried to overthrow the father. After the elder Ayyubid's death in 1238 CE, al-Salih was caught in a brief succession struggle with his brother, but won it without much bloodshed, as the emirs and soldiers of Egypt defected to him. Now he was the ruler of the entire Ayyubid Sultanate. So what was Shajar doing in the meantime? Frankly, we don't have a lot of records of her early years with As-Salih. We know she traveled with him and gave birth to their son Khalil, all as the Ayyubid's concubine. Only after assuming the Sultanate and the birth of their son did As-Salih marry her. Now she was officially Sultana, which was quite a rise in status and power for a former slave. According to historians of the time, she was both beautiful and intelligent, even counseling her husband in matters of state. It was also said that she had an interest in architecture, which would later lead to her creating a new style that would define the architecture of Egypt for centuries. However, even good times come to an end eventually. In 1249 CE, European crusaders under the command of Louis IX, King of France, landed in Egypt. Sultan As-Salih had moved most of his troops to Syria earlier, as he expected the invaders to make landfall there, and was completely caught off guard by this. He hastily ordered his armies to return, abandoning the siege of Homs that he had undertaken. As-Salih never arrived in Egypt, losing a brief battle to tuberculosis. Shajar was now suddenly a widow, left with an infant child, while an army of foreign invaders threatened her country, and relatives of her late husband would undoubtedly start to gamble for the throne. Considering all of this, Shajar only told her most trusted subjects, the commander of the army and the chief eunuch of the palace, about her husband's death, while making a list of everyone who witnessed the Sultan's passing. All were sworn to secrecy, and the public was informed that As-Salih was still alive, if ill. Shajar even continued having meals prepared for her husband, which she personally brought to his tent. Still, somehow word of the Sultan's death spread to the Crusaders, who decided to march for Cairo. Shajar and most of Egypt's army were encamped in al-Mansura, so decided to intercept the invaders right there. With the help of her general, Baybars, the Crusaders were lured into the city, then trapped and utterly annihilated. With the immediate threat dealt with, Shajar returned to Cairo to officially announce the death of the Sultan. One of his sons, Turan Shah, claimed the throne for himself. After their common enemy, King Louis, was defeated and captured, the self-proclaimed heir turned on Shajar, demanding from her all the possessions of his late father that she still carried. Fortunately for her, Turan Shah was known as a drunk and other even worse behaviors, which I will not detail. So the old guard that was still loyal to As-Salih decided to back up Shajar in the struggle. Especially Baybars was vital, as he eventually ordered Turan Shah's assassination and was among the first to declare that Shajar should not just be regent until her son was of age, but the sovereign of the Sultanate. I cannot stress enough how rare of an occurrence this decision was at the time. but most of the establishment of the Sultanate backed it, thus making Shajar the first Sultana of the Mamluk Sultanate. Mamluk was the word for slave soldiers used in the Muslim world. Despite being slaves, some of them rose to great power and influence, filling a similar role as knights did in medieval Europe. Considering her lack of traceable family line, naming her new-founded dynasty after her former status as a slave, even if Shajar was certainly not a slave soldier, seemed appropriate. In one of her first orders, she released King Louis for a large ransom, boosting her treasury. Not all emirs accepted her rule, however, and some started to back relatives of the now deposed Ayyubid clan. Worse for her still, the Caliph of Baghdad, the highest religious authority for Sunni Muslims, also rejected her as Sultana. He supposedly quoted the Prophet Muhammad, "Woe unto nations governed by women," to support his stance. Afraid to lose legitimacy for their sultanate, the emirs of Egypt and Shajar decided it was best if she abdicated. She married one of her commanders, the Mamluk Aybak, who then became the next sultan. This was enough to satisfy the caliph, who had more pressing matters to attend to anyway. The Mongols were approaching. More on them in our Sukhothai episode, link up there on the screen. Not all was well in Egypt, however, as the Ayyubids and their supporters were still clamoring for the throne. A civil war broke out, which eventually ended in a settlement. The Mamluk dynasty retained most of the realm, while a new sultanate was established for the Ayyubids. Now the caliph officially recognized the Mamluk sultanate, giving it the legitimacy it needed. Meanwhile, the relationship of Shajar and Aybak deteriorated. The new sultan did not value Shajar's advice and treated her as just one wife of many. Shajar, a woman of cunning and the ability to govern on her own, felt betrayed and undervalued. Eventually, this grew into resentment, and she used the loyalty of her servants to have Aybak assassinated while taking a bath. That is one side of the story at least. Shajar claimed he died surprisingly, yet her servants confessed to murder under torture. Which is important to note, because people would say anything to end torture. Alas, that was enough evidence for Aybak's oldest son, Al-Mansur Ali, to make moves against her. While Shajar was initially protected from straight execution, she was locked in a tower. That was not enough for Ali and his vengeful mother. They had her, the former Sultana, stripped and beaten to death. According to one chronicle, her body was left in a ditch for 3 days, before she was buried in a tomb. A special Byzantine mosaic depicting a tree of life marked her grave. Even if her death was alas unceremonious, her life was fascinating. A woman who was taken from her family very early, yet through luck and cleverness became the ruler of one of the most powerful empires of her time. Her legacy remains in the architectural projects that lined Egypt, as well as the folkloric and historical tales written about her. That concludes this biography. I hope the end of it wasn't too much of a bummer, and I will see you all again for the next episode. Thank you all for watching, and thank you to my wonderful artist. If you may, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Until next time, bye! An entire episode about Egypt and not a single reference to the Bengals and Walk Like an Egyptian. I'm a hack writer.